I think I just
Can you
turned
hear me?
off my mic. I can hear you, and you can now
Yeah,
hear
yeah.
me.
You
Hi, this is
had it
Greg.
muted. You did it
This
once at first. You had it muted, which is good. Now,
this is
now
Greg Study with Study on Soccer. I'm going to do that intro all over again. I had muted my own mic. I forgot to unmute it. Greg Study on Soccer. I'm here with Reno Distefano. He's the owner of the Cleveland Samba MASL 3. Reno, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Greg, thanks for having me, man. Like I said, it's been so much fun so far. And when I heard you're going to be reaching out to me, like I said, I had a light bulb moment. Like, oh, Greg Suddy. Okay, you've been watching this guy's channel for years now. So now he wants to do an interview with you. Awesome. Just pencil me in. Let me know when we're ready.
Well, that's awesome. I appreciate your time. And I'm going to do a quick little sponsorship, and then we'll get started. Study on Soccer is sponsored by Auden Technologies. Auden Technologies will take care of your security cameras, alarm systems. Man, they've got you from servers and networks. They operate primarily out of the Midwest and the Northeast. Auden Technologies sponsors Greg Study on Soccer. We do this at least once a week. And this week, we are super excited to have Reno Distefano with us today. And once again, thanks for joining me, Reno. Let's start with just sort of a, who are you, buddy? Where did you come from? What are you doing? How did you get to Cleveland? What made you fall in love with soccer? Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. Grew up here. Played soccer my whole life. 5 years old.
Wow.
Just started rec soccer. You know, it all progressed into Premier and high school ball. Played locally here as well. Played at St. Ed's. And it all just kind of my love for the game all just kind of just started, you know, at a young age and kind of progressed throughout the years into what it is now.
Well, I've got two things for you. One observation. Cleveland, Ohio. Now, I used to work for a major airline, and I flew all over the world, and most of it was in the United States. And I had a couple of occasions to fly to Cleveland, Ohio. And one of the things coming from San Diego, California, that absolutely shocked the heck out of me was to learn that Cleveland is a coastal city. I mean, I lived there, and I'm going beaches, waves, a lake I can't see the other side of. That's a coastline. So that was a cultural shock to me. I didn't expect to find that kind of a thing going on. You know, girls in bikinis on the beach in Cleveland, Ohio, sort of shocked the heck out of me there. The other thing, though,
I don't know what you can see here. It's definitely big melting pot here. We got a little heat wave going. It's up to 20 degrees this week, so we're out of the negatives, and that's exciting for us. So, yeah, I can't imagine how nice and sunny it is out there in Cali, but we're doing our thing here, and you never know what you're going to get in Cleveland, like you said.
Right. Well, I spent some time in St. Louis. I know that there's a lot of difference in the weather patterns between St. Louis and Cleveland, but I actually had an apartment in St. Louis for a while, so I learned a little bit about the Midwest. And I know what you're talking about as far as it's a balmy 20 degrees. I mean, you guys are walking around in flip-flops and board shorts today, right?
Yeah, something like that. Like I said, it's we're out of the negatives, and we're ready to roll here.
I love it.
Business as usual.
So, Reno, let me ask you, as an athlete growing up, because I love asking my guests this, as an athlete growing up, what made you go to soccer instead of any other sport, baseball or track and field or anything like that?
Well, it's funny that you asked that. You know, when I was young, I just really had there was nothing like just having a ball at my feet. Baseball, too much standing. Football, let's just say I wasn't built for it. Just to take all that hitting, but soccer was always just a little different. I just really enjoyed just playing the game, and at a really really young age, just had that passion, that obsession. That's all I wanted to do was just kick a soccer ball and play. And it all just, then that it developed into, having that competitiveness and constantly wanting to play at and compete at the highest level that we can. And it's definitely been a journey of ups and downs just throughout that entire process.
It's really interesting because here in Southern California, primarily, at least back when dinosaurs used to walk around and I was a kid, there was mostly the people that played soccer through my youth and high school. They were mostly the local Mexican kids, and it was sort of like their sport. There was I played some American football and I ran some track and field, but I didn't get really interested, or I didn't get turned on to soccer until I was 19 years old. By that time, I figured I was too old to start to learn a new sport and play competitively. So I never actually played the game competitively, just, messed around on, pickup games and stuff like that. But I'm always interested when I talk to American athletes, because American athletes have so many options as far as what to do athletically as they're growing up.
No, I agree 100% with that. And, kind of just to piggyback off what you said, you joined the sport and then got that interest that fire that kind of sparked when you were 19. And I think for everyone, it's just a little bit different. Like you said, with Americans, a lot of Americans their bread and butter is with football, with baseball and basketball and those traditional American sports. So soccer has been always kind of that secondary focus that I think, I like to present to a lot of different people and just kind of show them, especially with the indoor game. You can talk to a lot of people and they might just kind of brush it off soccer, you guys only score. And, I left. I turned a lot of people onto the sport and let them know, hey, this is really, indoor soccer is completely different from what you're thinking of turning on the TV, and you've got, Germany versus Spain. For someone who doesn't love the sport, they're going to turn that on and be very bored. They're not. That's a massive field, maybe one goal. Right. So that's what they've got in their head about what the sport is and how exciting it is. But, arena soccer just being completely different, 5 and a keeper, just like hockey, my love for the sport, starting back in our early 90s when I was a boy with the original MISL, going down watching Cleveland Force, Cleveland Crunch, and that's kind of where it all started, watching those games and seeing, what the sport is, and then having my own experience throughout, my development of a player, and then kind of coming back full circle to have, we were just a men's team, a competitive group of men's team who kind of wanted to take this to another level. And it's been very exciting. It's been fun. I mean, the league has been great, as far as covering all bases, communication, because everything's new. First time, it's our first year in the league. Everything's new to us. And
let's go that direction. Let's talk a little bit about the Cleveland Samba. So, tell me about the history of the team, how it got started, how you came up with the nickname. Tell me maybe a little bit about where you're playing, how the crowd is. Let's hear a little bit about the Cleveland Samba.
Yeah, absolutely, Greg. So Samba was actually, we decided to keep an original name from my club team that I grew up and played with. So it's just, that was our original USSF. From cool. U8 to U18, we were Samba, and that's the club that I played for. Cool. Head coach with Devin Anderson.
Oh, nice.
And we did our thing for close to a decade there. And, after all that time, everyone goes off to college and they take on their careers, and everyone forgets about that life that they had and they move on. And we, like I said, we've kept a lot of us have kept in touch throughout the years of just wanting to continue that, that competitiveness, that love for the game that we all had, and just wanting to compete, with whoever we can, because, truth be told, there's not. I know this is the case with a lot of cities. Is arena soccer is difficult to find. There are not a ton of facilities that offer boarded facilities. So, and especially in Cleveland, there's only a few. Like there's not many. So we play at Soccer Sportsplex in North Olmsted. They've been great with us too throughout this whole process. They've been our host field throughout, the last couple of years of us just playing in competitive men's leagues. And that was the whole reason we decided to venture off and take it a step further, because there were only, 3 or 4 teams that we were able to play against, at a high level. Other than that, you've got teams that are just trying to play recreationally, and it's not, they're not looking to be a part of any of that. So, and then you take it from a step further, and now we're in a sanctioned league, and our first game was, we had a good. We were successful our first match. We had a great turnout, great fans. That was big for us.
Wow. Very cool.
It was still a big wake up call. The games, stopping clock versus running clock. Your games are like double. This,
Oh, gotcha.
And some of our guys are, you could tell that they weren't used to that, and it's been exciting to just to learn the curves, and just continue to learn more, because we've learned this much so far, and there's still just so much more out there. That's just going to make us better and more successful as a group ultimately.
So talk about what made you just go over the edge and decide? Was it just you wanted to have more and better competition? Is that what made you go into the league instead of just keeping up with the men's soccer?
It's essentially yes. Like I said, where's a lot of the guys who play on our team, we play three teams, 3 or 4 other teams that are their quality, and it's very repetitive. It's the same group of guys, and throughout the team collectively, I had spoken with all my players individually enough about the league, and they were all familiar, with the MASL 3. I pointed this out to them and just said, hey, if this was something that we wanted to do, would you want to be a part of it? And pretty much unanimously, every single player that I asked was like, yeah. So that's cool. I made sure that I didn't have any less than 30 people who said, yes, I want to do this, before I contacted Chris, because you know how things are like that are going to go. People will lose interest. And
right.
I wanted to make sure, like, hey, before you reach out to this guy, and make sure that you got, you're not wasting his time. So I did enough of my, question asking for my players, and got enough interest. And like I said, I pretty much unanimously, every single person wanted to do it, wanted to play in the league. So I reached out to Chris, and he said, here's what you got to do. And here we are.
Okay. That's outstanding. That's really cool. And you find yourself in a league that consists of 27 other teams. That's a bank of teams to just sort of jump from a men's league, a rec league into the fire. 27 other teams. Now, to be fair, you're in a conference with 3 other teams, and all of your regular season games are within that division. Isn't that right?
Yep. Yeah. So kind of more or less the same concept. You're kind of grouped within, and you're playing those same teams, but with the hopes of being able to advance and make it to playoffs, and be able to just play as many teams as you can, and seeing like you said, having just that many 27, 28 teams, whatever it is, it's a lot. You never, looking at it's interesting just to kind of tune in each week just to see some of the score lines, and see who's doing what teams are performing, which teams aren't performing, and there's always something. There's always something going on. I mean, as far as M2, M3.
Right, absolutely right.
I mean, there's been a lot going on in M1 to talk about.
True that. So the teams that are in your division are Rochester and the Gunners and Youngstown. Have you played the Gunners yet?
So we've played all of our, we played all three teams. We played Youngstown twice, Rochester, and Buffalo.
Okay. And you only lost to Rochester.
Yep, we started out pretty strong. 2 wins against Youngstown, 1 at home, 1 on the way. I'm sorry, 1 on the road. And third game we played Rochester, and like I said, that was a big wake up call for us, to see an experienced team like that. But we learned a lot during that weekend. I mean, every single player there took a lot from it, and was able to, even in those moments, kind of learn and observe, and kind of take those good moments with those bads, and know that seeking out this high level of competition, you got to be ready at all moments, because that's what you ask for. You're looking for really good teams to play. So
I was just gonna say, watch out what you ask for.
That's it. Be careful what you ask for. And yes.
And you were saying before we came online, you were saying that this Rochester team that's performing right now in your division is made up of a lot of players that were on the Lancers last year, and of course the Lancers were a playoff team last year.
Yeah, it definitely seemed that way. From what I saw from that group, from that Rock City team that we played against, and then just kind of doing a little bit of research, and it looked like a majority of those guys were Lancers players, and they were very quality. I mean, just high level, fast. Everything was on point. We had a lot, like I said, just playing them. It was good exposure for us. We went in with kind of a very deflated team. It was our first away game that we really struggled to get a strong team, and it was not the situation where we wanted to put ourselves in, as far as having not a super strong team that weekend. But that's part of learning the curves of the whole process, because that's we're starting to kind of see how important that is, just to get guys to buy in and understand that we can't have just guys wanting to play at home. We got to have guys who want to play on the road and just make us as competitive, hold the whole 9 yards.
Right. And so you've got a player pool of about how many players?
I would say we've got around 35 guys.
Okay.
And we've got some injuries. And we've got some guys who kind of helped us fill in when we needed them.
Well, yeah, availability is huge, though, isn't it? I mean, you've got 35 guys, but you're going to, I mean, especially like you say, I didn't even think about this, especially like you say, a bunch of guys probably are, all in as long as it's a home game. But if I've got to leave the house and go on the road and get in a bus and travel to another city and go through that, Reno, I'm really not down for that. I think I'm going to stay home this time.
Right. Yeah. So it's a growing pain, because unfortunately that's not how we want it to be. We want it to be, we're on the road, we're all in, and I understand, people, everyone's at different points in their lives, and not everyone can make that kind of commitment, go travel 3, 4, 5 hours away. It's
Right.
like I said, it's something that we have to learn to continue to grow with, and just stay more organized, stay more on top of it. That's why I've got, plenty. One of my thought processes, have a nice high player pool of players. That way, we don't have to bump into problems as far as availability, having a strong squad.
Right.
But that's something that's always week to week. Injuries, guys being out of town, etc., can be difficult, especially when, you're looking at the alignments of what players can play and which players can't, and it being difficult. Oh, look, I've got all defenders.
Oh shoot.
We've got we've got all midfielders, we've got all attackers. So it's, well, these are the players that can play.
Oh man.
And saying, it's
Oh.
that 35 guys doesn't look as available now, does it? When you start looking at
Right.
the level,
Right.
and it being, showing your respect to the league, and the
Right.
competition that you're playing. You don't want to just show up with, these guys said they're in, we're going to bring these guys. No, it can't be that simple.
Yeah.
So it's been definitely a fun process. The whole,
And then,
learning how to communicate with my players, getting fans at games. I mean, it's been a blessing. Our first game was great. We sold a ton of tickets. Seeing a bunch of
great.
Old faces, that original Samba people, who have known the group for going on 2 decades now, and then seeing new people who I don't want to say I don't know who they are. I'd like to know who they are, but they're new fans, and that's great. It's seeing
so cool.
our organization and our team, people come out for it. It feels special to me.
No kidding. I mean, one of the worst things in the world is throwing a party and having nobody show up.
Oh man, do you think that wasn't a fear of mine? I got this whole organization, this whole, told so many people about it, and if game 1 rolls around, you don't know how it's going to go, but it's been,
that
seems we must be doing something right, because people showed up, and every single person there said they had a blast, wants to come to more games, and that was big for us too.
If you've got a culture behind the brand, if this is a club team that's been local for a long time, and there's been people come up through that team for years, and they understand, they recognize that brand is probably carrying you a long ways as far as recognition is concerned.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, you pretty much just hit the nail on the head there, and that's why we just keep seeing more full circle. I coach as well, USSF soccer. Shout out to Manta United. I coached for it's a club out of Cleveland, and it's cool to see some of those kids that I coach with show up to our games. And that feels so cool to me. To be there and have that same presence that my coaches had for me, and to be able to instill those values in them, of being a strong player on the field, being a stand-up player off the field, being a leader, and how all of these values correlate into everyday life.
Being a coach, there's teachers, pastors, parents, coaches, these are all mentors in people's lives. And when you have a young person that you're coaching along through these pivotal years and pivotal issues that they have to deal with and grow up with, and you get to be that person to be there for them, interacting with the parents together, that's got to be very rewarding.
Yeah, it definitely is. It brings up that nostalgic factor of this is where I was, growing up, and having the those like, oh, I remember this now. Like I remember, having deja vu right now. I
Right.
remember all the struggles that the
Right.
parents and the
Right.
players being upset with decision making, and I'm a coach now, and I
Right.
understand it a little bit more now
Right. Yeah.
than I did when I was growing up and when I
Of
was a
course. Yeah.
player.
Sure.
And it's definitely rewarding. You can say that much.
Well, are you also coaching the Samba, your team in M3?
Correct. Yeah. So I'm the owner and head coach.
Okay.
Um, and
Marketing director, day to day operations manager.
all of it. I've got, like I said, our team captain, who's in Vegas now.
Uh-huh.
Um, he's been a huge help to me.
Oh,
Um,
that's good.
and been super helpful, because it has been just literally just me, one man show with some assistance that's popped up over the last couple of months, which has been awesome. Which has helped us,
Wow.
kind of close that gap as far as new and professional and making it look like you've been there before.
Right.
So I think
Yeah.
we have, Chris always kind of reassures me, like, oh, you're doing fine. You're always on top of it. And I'm
So we,
always like, are you sure there's anything else we need to be on top of? Like,
so when you mentioned Chris, you're talking about Chris Economides, the commissioner of the league.
yes, sir.
Right. Okay.
The
Just,
man,
just,
the
just to be
legend.
clear. Yeah. Yeah. Just to be clear. Um. Yeah. So this your team captain. What's his name?
Anthony DeMarco.
Anthony DeMarco. So you were going to try to see if you could bring him on, but he's in Vegas. He's having a good time in Vegas right now.
From what I've heard, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But
Right.
he tells me he's on work, so
Okay.
I'm gonna believe him. He's never given me a reason not to trust him. I believe he's fully committed to, making those deals out there.
That's
But
outstanding.
when you
Yeah.
I know if he could have been here, he would have, because he's very much into. When you told me you were going to do this, I was like, well, let me reach out to Anthony, because I know he
Yeah.
would be a part of it. And he's like, dude, it's my week. I'm not. I don't know when I'm going to be available. And I'm like,
Right.
no worries, brother. We
Well,
just
I wish I could have had a chance to meet him. You guys have known each other for a long time.
actually the last couple of years, I
Okay.
met him through, not necessarily a Samba group, but it was actually an men's over 30 league that we played
Okay.
in, and we really bonded as far as managing the team, um, literally, and just it was just him and I just kind of always, going back and forth and making sure what guys are going, um, what squad do we have for tonight. And it just kind of took off, from there. And then I got the Samba idea. I got him hooked on that, and now he's, my right hand man. Just anything we need to get done, um, he's on my side, ready to go, and that's just been so much fun. Like I said, it's been a blast.
So, Reno, I don't mean to be asking you actual dollars and cents, but without going to actual dollars and cents, is it a super substantial layout to get something like this started?
I would say, if it's something that a team wants to do, I don't want to say it's easy. It's probably one of the most difficult things I've been able to orchestrate, you know, in my life. And I've actually, there have been certain moments where I've been like, what am I doing? You're in over your head.
Oh
But,
no.
but, on the other side of that, there have been so many moments that have been just great and so rewarding. And that's what it's all about, is just the roller coaster of, the ups and the downs. But to go back to your question, I would say, without getting into an actual dollar amount, I would say it's very
Right.
feasible.
No.
It's not something that, if a group of men wanted to be a part of, that, I think that they would be able to do it. I mean, I'm sitting
Right.
here talking with you, and I, um, like I said, it was not easy. I don't want to undermine it. It was definitely a challenge, but I think it was most definitely doable. And I know that years down the road, we're still going to have the club, and I'm going to have something to be a part of.
Absolutely.
I think that the ASL has been great. I mean, I think this is only the beginning, and I think the hardest part, is all behind us. As far as now it's moving forward. You've got operating costs, and we'll get to that. We all knew that this was gonna. None of this is free, but it's all part of the learning curve, and it's all part of the. Well, we all wanted to do this, so let's all, put our big boy pants on and stay true to what we wanted to do. And there have been a small handful of guys who have fallen off from my original, group of what I wanted to foresee. But for the most part, it's got a, just a big buy-in from so many guys who've got a lot of interest. And my goal is to just continue to make the team as competitive as possible, and treat it like a true semi-pro team should be run, where it's, anyone can take your spot at any moment.
Right.
Growing as an organization, yes, you've been around, but if our brand starts to gain popularity, and if we've got players who want to play, we're not going to tell them no if they want to come try out and see how they fit. And a lot of it comes down to team chemistry.
I was going to talk about that. Yeah.
A lot of we've had a lot of guys come in and out of the program that I've seen over the years, and some of them being just great individual players. They've got all the credentials on paper. Former D1 athlete, and you put them on the field with us, and one way or another, after a couple games, maybe it takes a little bit of time to see that this guy does not gel with the rest of the chemistry of the team. And you're looking at it like,
chemistry is huge.
What do you mean that like this player's fantastic? And it's having that 16 of guys. Everybody's got to be on the same page. Everybody's got to know what role they're playing. And if you have one guy who, regardless of how good he might be, if he's not falling into that
that's right,
format of play, it will show.
And Reno, that goes back to kind of what we were talking about the availability of your players. I mean, if you end up bringing in, like you were kind of joking about, if you end up bringing in, a team of nothing but midfielders, you're instantaneously going to have a problem with chemistry with, on the field and play right away. I mean, just naturally. But that's the other thing is, as a coach, you really need to breed that chemistry and make that chemistry grow. I mean, it's one of those things. I've always had this sort of philosophy that if you've got a top quality team and they're playing against an all-star team, the top quality team is generally going to win the game, because the all-star team doesn't play together. The chemistry is hard to, they're really good players and they might gel in the second half. So by the time the second half rolls around, you might have a whole different game. But it's just that chemistry, that team chemistry is just huge. And if you've got a bunch of guys that some of them are committed all the time, some of them aren't, some of them show, some of them don't, that's got to be an angle of coaching that is not all that fun.
It could definitely be a stress factor for sure. Looking at your availability of players and looking what that is most definitely sitting down and going over things with my team captain, looking at the players that we have, looking at the lines that we have, looking at the players who play really well together, looking at players that we want to keep on separate lines, looking at players that do well on power plays, looking at players that do well on line kills. And we've gotten a lot better with a lot of it. If you would have looked at us about a month before any of the M3 season and just our regular, men's team, Um, I wasn't 100% sold that we were gonna have comfort,
Wow.
that comfort of
Yeah.
being there on that level. But it
Right.
was kind of like a switch. Guys kind of just turned it on, and
Hmm.
everything has just kind of flowed into a good process. And like I said, there have been things that we've noticed that are different. Um, but that's not something that we could say was a surprise. We've talked about this for how long as a group, and how long we've prepped ourselves that, hey, let's get ready for the higher level of competition. Let's get ready for it. Well, it's one thing to talk about it, and it's another to jump in and
Right.
actually be there. So, you
Right.
know, pleasantly surprised, or pleased rather, just to see how all that's kind of come to the surface.
Well, and the commitment, it goes, I mean, come on, it goes a lot further than just whether they're going to show up for game day. I mean, you need to practice. You got to have people, you have to have practice sessions and bring people together. I mean, at least sometimes,
Yep.
to where you've got, right? I mean, to where
Yeah,
you've
and
got
it's
some kind of a show of people that are coming together and working out together and practicing together and, kicking the ball around.
oh, you're spot on. It's almost like about this sport a little bit. Um, yeah, that's another thing that training as a group. Um, you know, we're training late. We train late on Thursday nights. That's the only time that we had available from the facility.
Oh, I
And
gotcha.
it's hard, that once again goes back to availability and a
Right.
training at 9:30 at night versus if we could have a training at 6 at night. It
Wow.
um, kind of dilutes that a little bit as far as you know
Right.
which guys are gonna, if I've got players and myself included who are up at start work at 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning. You're kind of
Right.
like, hey, I'm understanding about this, but at the same time, like you said, like we need to be practicing and training as a group.
As a group.
Kind of whenever we can. Um,
I mean, it's one thing. It's one thing for a guy to stay fit, on his own, go to the gym, have a routine, kick the ball around a little bit in his yard. It's a whole different thing when you're putting the guys on the field and you're running drills and you're set plays, that whole deal for game day. I mean, it's a whole different environment. And I mean, great. So you got the skills and you're in good shape. But you have no idea who the guy is playing next to you on the field. You've never played with him. You don't know his tendencies. You don't know his soccer IQ. I mean, putting that whole thing together is just. I mean, it's got to be just fun. I was, it's got to be fun. I mean, if it's not fun, you wouldn't be doing it.
that's just it. Is if I wasn't having fun doing it, what's the point? So it is.
Right,
It's a blast. It's kind of like that. You do, what do they say? You do your best work when you're scrambling, or when you're
right,
really put under the pressure. And it's true. You could kind of see how we perform when there's a deadline, and to
right.
say, hey guys, we're playing a really good team in a week or two. Like, let's get a training session in, and let's make sure guys are there, because um, having a roster of 35 players is great, but we certainly don't want a completely different format of players every single week. We need to have a familiar group going in,
Yeah,
having a core group of guys
absolutely.
to kind of sit there and say, like, well, we're going to look and see who's available this weekend, but before we even do that, I know which guys that I'm kind of gonna need to base the core around.
Right, right, right. So let's talk a little bit about what's coming up on your season. Is it true that you don't have a soccer game scheduled until the 15th of February?
Yes, sir, that's correct. So we had this last weekend off, and so the next 2 weekends will be off as well. Um, Definitely a much needed. My guys were going 100 miles an hour,
Oh, good.
some injuries, and
Oh,
the
good.
break kind of came up and was a good kind of pump the brakes. Let's reset and
Okay.
But at the same time, it has not been. Oh, we're off for 3 weeks, and let's forget about.
No, you see, you can't. Right, you can't do that.
We've been
Right,
still in contact every
right,
day. Still talking about like, hey,
right,
we're 3 weeks out, but we're going to start game planning now for all of
right.
this. You know, making sure that guys are staying healthy. That's a big thing too. Just making sure that injuries don't occur or persist, for that matter. Um,
Yeah.
it's a big factor if one of your crucial players goes down at any level in any sport. That's not something that is ever fun from a coach's perspective or for that player's perspective. You want,
Or for the player, right? Exactly.
you know,
The team you're playing on the 15th is Youngstown. You've played them
uh,
twice already.
yeah. So this will be our third matchup against Youngstown. Um, Josh, who actually runs the Out of Technology, is the head coach for Youngstown.
Right.
Super nice guy. I really, he's been
Yeah. No,
super helpful.
yeah. He's
Yeah,
great.
it's been cool. Was super helpful with us bringing us in, hosting us at Youngstown. Was super friendly. Coming here, game one. I got nothing but respect, for him. And it's been a pleasure working side by side with him, and the other owners as well. Kovan of Buffalo and Mark of Rochester. I like forming good relationships with the guys that we're playing against. Makes things easier. You're there for competition and you're there to play, but you're also, you know, you're there for a professional reason. And I think if people can get along, it just makes things smoother.
Well,
And there's going to be hiccups, and
yeah,
but I think at the end of the day, we're all here for the same reason. We all love the game. We love the sport, and I think out of respect for that, it's always best to put your best foot forward and demonstrate that those leadership skills.
absolutely. And one of the things that anybody that knows me has heard me say this many, many times. And I've got a little cliche that goes along with it. My second favorite team is always the team that's on the field against my favorite team. So if in my case, I follow the San Diego Sockers, and my second favorite team is who's ever on the field against the San Diego Sockers, because without that competition, without that, then we have nothing. I mean, we need it. We're all in. It's all. We're all in the same, pocket together,
Yep.
and it's a pretty small community. When you get right down to it, it's a pretty small community, and of course, there's going to be, and we've seen it in the last, week. There's going to be, people are going to get upset. People are going to get in a little shoving match now and then. But generally speaking, and I know a lot of these guys, generally speaking, that happens on the field, and they go off the field and they, tip a beer together after the game, or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's really like what you're saying about the ownership. I mean, I would imagine that's you guys come together and it's the owners. I mean, come on, it's the owners that make this stuff happen. Not to say that the players aren't important. I mean, that's who you come to go watch as a fan. But it's the owners that are making this actually, factually happen. And if it weren't for the guys who are actually putting this stuff together, the players wouldn't have a place to play. So, and you're all doing the same thing for the same love of the sport. And of course, as from a fan's perspective, we all can't say anything but thank you very much. Let's briefly talk about the MASL 3 and the playoff structure and how that's working out within the 6 divisions that operate. 27, I think it's 27 teams and 6 divisions. How does that play out towards the end of the season?
So basically, like you said, there's 6 divisions with roughly 4 to 5 teams in each division, and the winner of each division, winner of each of the 6 divisions will move on to a playoff format. So the top 6
Oh, wait.
teams.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So you're saying that you have to actually win the division in order to move to the postseason.
That's correct. Yes, you have to win the division, which is it's
okay.
brutal. A lot of pressure. There's no time to let your foot off the gas.
Okay.
And on top of that,
okay,
everyone's got the same mindset. It might not be enough to make the playoffs, but to try and get that super desirable 1 or 2 seed. Because I believe the format is 1 and 2, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to bye, and then 3, 4, 5, and 6 have to play in a match.
Okay, I get it.
So not only is
I get it.
I mean, you could technically win every game, and I would think if you got 2 other divisions with if they've got undefeated records as well, and they beat you in point differential, well then you could win every game, technically speaking, and get a 3rd place, third going into the playoffs. So it's a lot of definitely a lot of pressure. It's definitely not something you want to be unaware of. The whole season, every game matters. Every game.
Oh, no kidding. And that's the other thing is every game matters. You guys only played 10 games.
Yep. So 5 home, 5 on the road. It's just enough to get your feet wet, and start getting comfortable, and then pretty much after those 10 games, you got to look at the standings and see where you fall.
Right. And we were talking a minute ago about this break that you have. It's going to make your guys healthy, and if any injuries that you got, you're going to be able to get them healthy. But there's always that concern about being sort of game fit in their head. Losing that step during the time off. You got something going on. You got some momentum happening. You guys are 3-1 right now after 4 games, so your next game is going to be halfway through the season. How do you feel about how spread out the season is with only 10 games against the calendar?
Looking at the calendar, it just seems like there's no how do I say this? I don't want to say rhyme or reason, but some of the teams started as early. Some of those teams in the Northeast they were playing. They had 3-4 games played, at least 2 or 3 played before a lot of teams even got their first kickoff. So if you look at the M3 and look at there are some teams in there who've only played a couple games. So basically, to answer your question, I'm not sure how I would have wanted it set up. Do you want to bank all your games? Would you prefer to have all your games early and then an easier stretch at the end of the season, but you might lose momentum? Do you want to spread things out on an every other week basis? I think looking at the way that our schedule has played out, I think that I can't complain. And I could say that it definitely has a lot of advantages and disadvantages. Like you said, looking at a 3-week gap, like, well, what are you going to do with that? Well, we'll take our time, we'll kind of regroup, and we know that this was a 4.5 month season. We were only going to have 10 games played. So we knew that it wasn't going to be we have a game every week. We knew that it was going to be, not as structured in that sense as far as having a game every week or not having one. And it just kind of be.
So I'm looking at the standings right now, Reno, and to your point, there are. Let me look at this. 3 teams in the league that have played 6 games as of today, and there's one team that's only played 1 game.
That's what I'm saying. So if you really dive in and start
Right.
looking, see,
No, 2 teams.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's kind of, once, I mean, how could you expect anything less with having such a big, we have 27
Absolutely.
teams, 27 teams in the league. It's going to be,
Right.
this team gets off to a hot start and they've played 5 games. All this division,
Right.
kind of taking a little bit longer to get things started. I think that's why we have, 4-month season, so we can sort those things out.
It makes sense, and of course, venue availability and that whole thing also plays a big part of it. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about M3. I'm a little disappointed that there's not a local M3 team here in San Diego. The Sockers have an M2 team, but we don't have an M3 side, and I'm a little, it's kind of missing out. Same thing with MW.
Yeah.
There's not an MW team here in San Diego either. So maybe I met Josh. You were mentioning Josh Auden, and of course I met him at the MASL Combine here in San Diego. That's when we got together and discussed getting this program back going again, and him sponsoring the program and helping me out with the costs and stuff. And that's super kind of him stepping up like that, and then bringing me into focus on the M3, you guys, and the MW, which he's also the president of that league as well. And it's been a real pleasure to get to know you guys. I mean, all of you. I met Josh Danza as well. I know Dominic Scicluna from the Detroit Waza Flow. I've known him for a lot of years. I had him on recently as well. Just sort of trying to feel through what you guys have. Is there anything you'd like to include in closing?
Not that I could think of. I mean, this has been such a pleasure. I mean, I've been such a fan for such a long time. I had my uncle used to live out in San Diego for a while, and when I went and visited him, I think it was 2022. I think it was the year you guys won, if I'm not mistaken. But I got a chance to. I brought him out with me, introduced him to the game of arena soccer because he lived in San Diego and he had no clue. Just like your typical American.
Right.
Nothing. He's like, oh,
Nope.
Dude, you guys have like one of the best arena soccer teams, like
Ever.
Like literally, like he's like, really? I'm like,
Ever.
yeah. So, this was back before you guys got your new arena, obviously.
Right.
So I,
Right.
pretty excited that I got that, because
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Great experience. And just a whole full circle thing because when I got the team, when we got accepted into the M3, I reached out to my uncle and I was like, I told him, I was like, it's the same league of the game that we went and watched and played. He's like, well, that's actually really cool. I'm like, it is pretty cool.
That is neat. That's a great little story, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, just being me, I run into people all the time, and I mention I might be wearing something that has a Sockers logo on it, or mention something in passing, and the typical response I get is, "Oh, I remember those guys. They were really good back in the '80s." And it's it's like, well, they're still playing. Not maybe still, maybe again. I mean, because the team did fold twice. So there was a period of time, and they stopped playing at Pachanga. They were playing in Del Mar for a while, and then back down to Pachanga. So I mean, it has been a bit of an effort to follow the team, and there's not enough marketing out here for it. I would expect so much more going on. I mean, when you go to the game, you've got you saw it if you were at Pachanga. You saw the banners hanging from the rafters, and and all of that, and it's just a wonderful sport. I'm really glad that you were able to join me tonight. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, Reno.
Yeah, absolutely, Greg. I couldn't agree more. Like I said, thank you for having me. It was pleasure's all mine.
Yeah, right on. Well, maybe we can do this again after you get yourself a berth in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
All right,
All
buddy.
right, brother.
Thanks,
Thanks, Greg.
thanks so
Thanks
much,
for having
Reno Distefano, the owner and head coach of the Cleveland Samba MASL3. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Keep in touch.
Thanks, Greg.
All right. So thank you everybody for watching. This has been great. I have such a good time getting to know these guys. And thanks for putting up with the new time schedule. It was really good to do this in the evening. I think I've already got a setup for next week. We'll see how that works out. I think I've got some women players, MASW, possibly even World Mini Football women players coming up next week. So thanks for watching, everybody. Tune in again, and we'll see you on the flip side. Thanks.